What's up, you guys, and welcome back to the studio. Today, we are here with a very special guest that most of you guys may not know. If you're at Sugar Land Middle School, then you know her very well. Her name is Maddie Hart, and she is just a pride and joy to this ministry. When you walk into the offices, she's the first face that you see, and it's like the best thing that you can see to start your day. So, Maddie, welcome to the podcast.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Pretty good.
I like your nails. Did you change them again?
I did.
So you guys, Maddie changes her nails like how often?
At least once a week.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
How'd you get into that?
You know, I did dip a lot, and then dip ruined my nails. And so I am excessively obsessed. Everybody knows this. I post about it so all the kids know too. Of my friend who makes her own vegan nail polish, Death Valley Nails. So.
I always love the colors that you've been choosing lately because they've been so like vibrant and just, especially the pink one that you did the other day. Obviously, I'm pink.
Obviously.
So I love that one. So what is it exactly that you do? Could you give everyone kind of like a little bit of a rundown of what you do at the office or at the middle school?
That's also an interesting thing.
Middle school?
No, just the like concept of what my job is.
You do so much.
It's changed a lot over the past 7.5 years that I've been here.
I feel like it's changed a lot over the past year you've been.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. That's very true. But for sure, my main title is ministry assistant for students, which realistically, when I was hired on, it was supposed to be just middle school and high school pastors who I worked for under the Sugar Land campus only. Okay. But over the years, it's transitioned into like a project type manager for design and vendors for camps and retreats. And then it's moved into solely just like helping with middle school right now. But I could see that changing in the future. Yeah. As people like become full time or whatever, as their jobs change. Like you just never know. I think that's just part of ministry. You never know. Ministry is not a stay in one place thing. Yeah. It's fluid and it moves. And I think that's the uniqueness of being a part of a ministry is you have to be what God calls you to be in that moment. So it could change.
Yeah. And you haven't always been in ministry, correct?
Correct. Not at all. In fact.
What did you do before?
I actually got a degree in education with a side in special ed. Okay. And that was something God laid on my heart when I was like 12. I remember working in a nursery, actually, in the church I was raised in. And they had some special ed kids there. And I loved it. Fell in love with the kids. Loved working with them. And, like, felt like, I remember distinctly, like, sitting inside this nursery and, like, the day thinking, this is what I'm going to do one day. I'm going to work with special ed kids. Yeah. And so, like, as we moved from churches, we actually landed at Sugar Creek when I was, I think, 17. Wow. And within like 6 months of being here, I actually got a part of the open door ministry here, which was really cool. I got to work with those kids for, I don't know, it might have been 3 years. I feel like it was a while because I think I was still doing it when I was at Houston Christian University. Irritating. But I went there for education. It was supposed to be EC through 6, which is like I think it's pre-K, through 6th grade in special education. I loved it. I loved it until I did it. And that was an interesting experience because here I had been thinking like, half my life by that point that, I'm going to be working with kids. I'm going to be in education. And I was upset with God. The summer that I would be going into my senior year, I was actually in California visiting my brother and sister-in-law at the time. And God spoke to me there, and he was like, you're not going to be teaching. And I was like, what? Why would you let me go to school? Like, I don't like school. I take that back. I like learning. I do not like taking tests. I am not a test taker. My brain doesn't work the way that tests are created. My brain works in a different way, but that's what made me just like dislike school. So brain just never worked that way. And when God was like, you're not gonna be a teacher, I was like, I'm not gonna listen to you. Which
Look how that turned out.
No, not a great idea at all. Don't ever tell God no. That's definitely something I've learned over the years. Don't just say that. But I did. Told God no. Finished up my education. And then the way that HCU did it back then, they've changed it now, I know. But the way they did it there, you took practice exams and you had to get a certain score on them before they allowed you to take the official exam. Well, I kept failing practice exams. And I ended up graduating actually without even passing any of I think I passed actually one practice exam. Wow. And I took the practice exams through the summer, and I crack up at it every time. Because I'm pretty sure I took like 4 or 5, and after the 4th time in a row of getting the exact same score of 69.
1 point away?
Correct. I was like, okay, God, I'm listening. Like, what's up? Like, clearly, you don't want me passing. Wow. Clearly, you want me listening.
Yeah.
And that was really hard now that I think about it, because my parents paid for my education. Granted, I had a scholarship for half, but they still paid for that. And they expected me to be teaching. Yeah. And I had to go to them and be like, hey, God doesn't want me doing that. And that was a tough conversation. Like, I remember spending several months going back and forth with my mom about, like, what are you doing with your life? What are you going to do in the place of this? Like, what's going on? And I didn't know. I really didn't know.
Yeah. And
God did tell me that he wanted me to be a writer. And that's something I struggle with still. I mean, some of you know this. I've written a book, but it's just sat on my computer for a decade now.
Yeah.
In fact, the same year that I graduated, God gave me the story to write. But there have been like a lot of, I think, fear factors that have come with that, because it's an unknown. I'm not used to. You want me to be vulnerable in this. I don't know how to handle this. I don't know how to put myself out there, because, again, I'm a background worker. I don't like being in the spotlight.
Right.
Being a writer kind of pushes you into that, especially in this day and age of being a writer. You have to put yourself out there. And so it's not like I haven't necessarily told God no to the writing. I haven't, but I don't know how to handle it. And you're actually making me think about this right now. I haven't, brought it to God about it.
Wow.
I haven't opened up that door of hey, what do you want me to doing?
Wow.
And so when I graduated in 2013, shockingly, I found a job at FBCA. I don't even remember how that happened. I don't know if I reached out. I can't remember. Wow. And they originally hired me on as a part-time pre-K worker, which I loved that. Those kids are adorable.
You do so good with kids, Maddie. And you always say, people just don't like me. I'm so mean, and I'm just big and bad and rawr kind of thing. But you're literally the nicest person ever. And I can't imagine, I can't fathom someone who doesn't like you just to walk up and be like, oh, what is she doing here? Kind of thing. I would literally have to go to God about that myself and say, Lord, I have a heart problem with this person that they have a problem with Maddie. That is not okay. And you worked with Than at FBCA, right?
I did. It was, I think, I'd been there for 2 years, and he ended up working in aftercare. After school care, I think is what they called it. By that point, I had worked myself up into being full-time in some way there, and I had 2 to 3 different jobs. Because, again, I wasn't certified, so I couldn't be a teacher.
Right.
But I had 2 to 3 jobs there, and I did a little bit of everything. And one of them was desk work, which I found out I really enjoyed. And that's what led me to working at Sugar Creek.
So let me ask you this. I know that a big part of you is your health and just everything that plays into that, because you have Crohn's, correct? Or do you have Crohn's after your latest doctor's appointment?
I do actually have Crohn's. Okay. I'm pretty sure it's confirmed.
Okay.
I mean,
you never know.
You never know.
You never know. Well, going along with all of your health problems that you face daily, really, how do you feel like that really led to you finding joy within desk work itself?
Oh, interesting. No one's ever asked me that before.
Really?
Yeah. Oh. It's a different perspective of, I think, Crohn's is a loaded question. Those who listen or who have experienced autoimmune in any way know that. I know what I have is one of hundreds. There's hundreds of autoimmune disorders out there. And For those of you who don't know what autoimmune is, because Crohn's is part of the same category as autoimmune, it's basically when your body sees itself as the enemy and it attacks itself. So for me, I was 14 when I got super sick with it's called whooping cough, but the other medical term for it is pertussis.
Right.
It's in one of the vaccines that they make you take. But I was 14. It was really weird. I don't know why the doctors in the Houston area did this, but all of us who hit 14, what year would that have been? 2005, I think.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm super old, y'all. I'm 33.
Larry Bird. Just kidding. Sorry. Maddie, in 2005, I was 2.
Now I feel really old.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Imagine how old people listening to this were in 2003 if they were born.
I was going to say some of them probably weren't born.
That is crazy.
Isn't that weird? But I don't know. That year, for some reason, doctors didn't have us take the vaccine for pertussis. So a whole collection of kids in the Houston area got it. And I was homeschooled. So in my homeschool, we took outside classes. But in my one of my homeschool classes, I had 15 kids in it. 3 of us got pertussis. 2 of us came out after pertussis with Crohn's disease.
Wow.
So pertussis is like a virus, kind of like COVID. I mean, it like wrecks your body.
Right.
Because it's a strong virus. And so I remember, I don't know, I think it took the doctors a while to diagnose me with pertussis. And it's because I have really bad asthma, and my asthma doctor thought I was having like a extreme asthma reaction. Like I was coughing and I would cough so badly I couldn't breathe. You either cough so badly you throw up, or you cough so badly you can't breathe. So for me, because I already had really bad lungs, I coughed so badly I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't catch a breath. I remember this happening a lot.
Right.
And the asthma doctor was like, "Oh yeah, you just have really bad asthma." So she kept trying to figure it out. I'm gonna say took 6 weeks before my mom was like, "You know what? We're gonna go to the primary doctor and see if this is something different." Literally was in his office for 30 seconds, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you got pertussis. You're the 10th case I've seen this week."
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. You did swimming pretty competitively, so how did that affect that?
That was interesting, I will say. Asthma in general is interesting in any sport. So I would take my rescue inhaler before I competed.
Right.
So any race that I did, I would take my rescue inhaler and then swim. I mean, depending on meets, you'd have to do it several times because your rescue inhaler only lasts for 4 hours.
Right.
But I didn't really compete once I got Crohn's because I was exhausted all the time. Because when they finally diagnosed me, it was probably a whole 8 months since I had started showing some type of symptom. Obviously, it was in and out of the doctor a lot. Drew lots of blood, did tons of tests. I remember this distinctly. My first colonoscopy happened to be, I think, towards the end of April in 2006. So it was right after I turned 15. And I was in dance at that time. I was still in dance. I think I was doing lyrical, jazz, and ballet that year. It was really fun. It was all fun. I never competed for dance or anything. It was literally just to have fun with friends. But I remember doing our pictures, professional pictures we had to do. And I had to with a colonoscopy, you have to be on a liquid diet the entire day before you take the prep. And then you have the colonoscopy the next day. And I remember downing Gatorade and liquids because that's all you can drink. Right. And I remember just feeling super weak. But obviously I was already super weak because I had lost a lot of weight from just being sick. And so the doctors officially diagnosed me when I was a month after I turned 15, which is an interesting note because even though I was raised in a Christian house, I didn't really have a personal relationship with God until after Crohn's.
And I was just about to ask that question, if you knew the Lord when you were diagnosed. So how did you handle that?
It's kind of vague. The these are things I wish my brain remembered.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what they say, like when your body goes through a lot of trauma, it starts forgetting.
Right.
And I think for me, I've noticed, especially in recent years, is anything connected to high pain days, I don't really remember. And so it's kind of a blur. But I do remember, I believe it was later on in May after they diagnosed me, just like feeling like there's no way I can make it in life.
Yeah.
Like this is like, I know there's a God out there and I know he's there for a reason. And I can't make this on my own. And so I did officially ask God to be in my life, have a personal relationship with him towards the end of May that year, which was really cool. Like my faith journey really started right when I was diagnosed with Crohn's.
Wow.
Which is awesome.
So how did you start to see the difference when you had God in your life within your weaknesses, within your illnesses specifically?
I don't think I saw it right away. And I'll probably say he's shown me, but I wasn't paying attention.
Wow.
And I think like especially when you're young and you're in high school, like your faith is different. It grows and it ebbs and it just looks different.
Right.
You've lived life to a certain point at that age, but you haven't lived life like you do as an adult.
Right.
You experience different things. But honestly, there was a lot of probably what I would call the 5 stages of grief. I probably experienced that in a cyclical pattern all the time.
Really?
Which is a really sad thing to say.
Yeah.
But it's also just reality of Crohn's because it's, even though it's consistent, in quotation marks, I'm going to say that, it's not.
Yeah.
Because there's always a new symptom that could come up or a new diagnosis of another autoimmune disorder or anything. And there are times like where I'm really good, my mental health is really good, and I'm accepting of the Crohn's and where God has placed me in life and what he has given me and seeing my life as a gift, even with the Crohn's. But then there's also days where I've raged at God and been very bitter and shouted out things like, I hate my body. That was like a big thing for me for probably a solid decade of telling God almost monthly, I hate my body. Give me a new one. I hate this.
Wow.
Give me a new one. And it was kind of funny. It probably has been 5 years now, but it was when I was like maybe a year or two working here at Sugar Creek. I remember distinctly leaving here and I was driving home. And I think it was just like another, like I was having like bad flare and like probably on one of my silly diets where I can't eat anything but like bone broth or something, which I hate those.
Yeah.
To this day, people are like, why did you just do bone broth for blah, blah, blah? I'm like, no. Bone broth is associated with a flare for me. And I will only drink it if it's a flare.
Wow.
Which is kind of sad because like bone broth is actually like really good for you. It has like
bone
collagen
tastes
and everything.
Like delightful.
But I was driving back home and I was really mad at God and I was like, I hate my body. I want a new one. And God distinctly spoke in the car. I gave you this body for a reason.
Wow.
Learn how to use it correctly. And I was kind of like, what? What did you just like?
What did you say?
The way that God communicates to me is he'll be quiet, but I tend to talk over him a lot or tell him no.
Wow.
And so he'll raise his voice at me, and that's just how we communicate. In that moment, his voice was so loud. And it's definitely changed my perspective.
Wow.
Do I still battle with, I hate my body? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But I think what follows promptly after me saying I hate my body is, nope, God gave you this gift for a reason. He's told you that. And I need to start viewing it differently. Wow. And it's definitely changed my perspective in the past 5 years. But in a different sense to, maybe not for myself, but like viewing how can I use my own experience through my Crohn's to help others.
Wow, that's so
because there's a lot of people out there who have autoimmune disorders, probably more than we even think, probably more than I even know.
Wow.
And how and what I've experienced and gone through and lived through, how can I help other people? Even if it's just to step into the world and be like, hey, I actually really do know what you're going through. even if I can't help you per se, let me sit in this with you.
Yeah.
And that helps a lot. I've had a few autoimmune friends myself who's done the same thing for me. And it kind of just like soothes something in your heart knowing you're not alone.
Yeah.
Like, granted, you're not alone. God's always with you.
Wow.
But sometimes I struggle with God is with me, but he's not physically with me.
Yeah.
And I need someone physically with me. And so that's definitely something I've learned probably more so in the past couple of years.
So what would you say to the adult or the student that's listening right now that's either struggling with an autoimmune disorder like you are, or maybe they just struggle with how they view their body, whether it's the young girl out there that's saying, I hate the way that you've made me, God. I don't have the tight waist that all these other girls have. I don't have what she has on social media. I don't have what he has out there. He has this beautiful girlfriend kind of thing. I want to be with him, but he's looking for this that I don't have. And so what would you say to them as an encouragement and as a way to turn them back to God in this situation, telling them, look, God made you who you are kind of thing. What's a Bible verse even that stuck out to you during this time that helped you find God in the midst of that?
I would definitely say for the first part of your question, unfortunately, we live in a broken world. So there's always going to be something. If it's not body image, it's going to be something else that you're going to struggle with.
Yeah.
That is the reality of life. But comparison is a hard thing to battle with. Very hard. And sometimes you just have to like keep a Bible verse in front of your face or a prayer that you've prayed or written down before in front of your face that reminds you that your body is your own and it doesn't compare to anyone else's because God gave you that body, your life, your personality, everything as a gift.
That's good.
And it's a gift. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And no matter what social media or whatever tells you, it's wrong. God's just got to stay in the forefront.
Wow.
And then you said Bible verse?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to.
Oh, yes. No. I have like...
all your notes. This is perfect.
Have my notes. I have notes just because of the way I process things. I have to write it down multiple times before something sticks. But before I even got sick, my first Psalms I ever memorized was Psalms 23. And it stayed with me. I think I learned that when I was like 6, actually.
Maddie, this is crazy right now.
What?
Psalms 23 has been on my heart. I've been seeing it everywhere. I find someone new that I meet somewhere, and I friend them on Instagram. And in their bio, each one of them, Psalm 23. In the book that we're reading, by Louis Giglio, Don't Let the Enemy Have a Seat at Your Table. And I've just been feeling like the Lord's been convicting me. Kylie, you need to be memorizing Psalm 23. Every conversation I have, a student will ask me, Kylie, how do you deal with this? It's not how I deal with it. It's about how do I get the enemy out of my head so he's not sitting at the table that I have. He might be at the restaurant with me, but he's not sitting at the table. It's just the Lord and I dining together. So the fact that you said that, I'm just like,
oh, I think God's trying to tell you something.
He is, Maddie. You're speaking to me, not just everyone listening.
So for sure, Psalm 23.
Okay.
Yeah, and you should definitely memorize it, Kai.
I will.
That's an easy one to memorize, though.
It is. I just have to.
I know you just have to. Yes.
Because then I find another verse and I'm like, wait, this is actually so good. Maybe I should do this one. Like Proverbs 31 was one that I was like convinced.
Oh.
I have the first portion down, but not all of it.
Well, now you just have like more verses you can memorize.
Exactly.
When you complete one, you just know which next one to do.
I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were talking about how you can memorize scripture by simply just writing it on a note card. And every time you get in the car to go somewhere, you read it really quick and then you just recite it as you're driving to that place.
Oh, yeah,
and
I could definitely see that.
Each day it's a different one. And obviously I have a long commute. So I was like, yeah,
that's
God,
true.
You're probably trying to tell me I should start getting on that. So anyways, your scripture that you wanted to.
So Psalm 23 is for sure one. Everyone should memorize it. I'm just going to say that as a challenge. Everyone should memorize that one. And you should also read Louis Giglio's book, Don't Have a Seat.
Yes.
At the Enemy's Table. I said that incorrectly. I always say it incorrectly, but you'll find it.
Yes.
It's fine.
Yes.
And then my other one was Psalm 27, which is really good because it has like a lot of like references about like waiting on the Lord and how the God is protecting you and how he's like watching over you. But there's a lot of waiting on the Lord. And I think that key for, I think it says it 3-ish times in that whole psalm. Something about it just made me realize, like, are you doing that?
Wow.
Are you waiting on the Lord? No. And so it's taught me just, not that I live a busy life, but it's taught me at times to just slow down and quit like rushing ahead or like trying to like super fast pace, work through things. Whereas God might be saying, no, like take it slow, wait on me, let me be there with you.
Yeah.
So that was another like really good one.
Wow.
It's always Psalms for me.
I love Psalms. The Psalms today, I've been listening to it when I wake up in the morning and just letting the Bible app just read it to me because it kind of calms me as I start to wake up. And it's like, okay, Kylie, like you have this new day. Let's take it on together. Lord, it's you and me. So get out there and get on my run and just da-da-da-da-da. In my Mary Jerry, my holly jolly world. Anyways.
Oh, dear.
Well, we're kind of wrapping up on time here, so I just kind of want to end with one thing. And like I've been saying in all the other episodes, but I really want to emphasize in this first season is the fact that one question we'll be asking all of our guests is, what's your biggest yay God moment? Because we know our head pastor here at Sugar Creek says yay God all the time. And we even made student bracelets that say yay God, which you did them actually.
I
So
did.
Shout out to Maddie because the yay God bracelets that most of you guys are probably wearing, Maddie made those. So what would you say that your biggest yay God moment is, Maddie?
I'm going to say that my biggest yay God moment this year, because I think every year it's different,
Yeah.
is, okay, I'm going to try to shorten it because there's a lot I could say about it. In fact, I'm going to encourage everybody, if you really want to know the in-depth, just come ask me. Biggest yay God, though, is learning how to bring my medical condition to God instead of trying to choose my own path with it.
Wow.
I've learned a lot this year. He's talked to me and he's answered and he's directed my path in ways that I never have seen him do in the past. And I think it's been like an incredible experience for me to be like, hey, God, there's blah, blah, blah going on in my life with this medical condition. What is your advice? Instead of me saying, let's remove God from that equation and just ask the doctor. Like, no, God's the maker of my body. He obviously has answers that I haven't been listening to.
Wow. That's so good. Well, Maddie, I appreciate you taking the time to just come on the podcast with us today and just share a little bit about your past, what you do in the ministry, and most importantly, just how the Lord's gifted you with your body and how even though he's taken things from you that other people don't have to endure, that you are living faithfully for the Lord. And so we really appreciate that. And even though you kind of work a little bit more behind the scenes, you deserve so much praise just for all that you do. I mean, the Lord deserves all the praise and the glory, but he's given you so many giftings at the desk because even though you have a weakness, he's given you a strength through that weakness. And so we really appreciate that. And Maddie, I just love having you just anywhere that I am. I love talking with you, honestly. You guys, please talk with Maddie because she loves being intentional. Isn't that your word for the year, intentionality?
It is.
So yeah, when she says, actually, I encourage you to come talk to me about it, go talk to her because Maddie's like the best person to talk to. We're going to wrap up here. And like I said, again, I loved having you on the podcast, Maddie. Well, I hope you guys have a merry, holly, jolly, whatever I said earlier day. And we'll see y'all next time on the podcast. Bye.